Welcome to Talk the Walk. I'm Sarah Wong. Hong Kong is being battered by an avalanche of cases every day as the fifth COVID wave shows no sign of abating. The government has pulled out all the stops to increase testing capacities in the bid to identify silent transmission chains. As laboratories are scrambling to cope with an influx of test samples, rapid testing kits have become an indispensable tool for people to protect themselves and their loved ones. Joining us now is Chiu, Chairman and CEO of Face Scientific International. We'll discuss how his company's diagnostics technology contributes to Hong Kong and the global fight against the pandemic. Thank you so much, Ricky, for joining us today.
Hi.
Now, walk us through how the test kit works and what is the unique technology that made it stand out from others.
Right. The rapid test that we developed is based on a technology called a lateral flow immunoassay, which is exactly the same testing mechanism as a common household pregnancy test. And of course, we have modified the technologies and imbued that with our core technologies and the antibody that is specific to the COVID-19 antigens so that we can develop a highly sensitive and highly specific test that can be used by anyone with minimal training at home to detect for COVID-19.
Is your company the pioneer in the industry in developing this technology?
Well, our company is a relatively new company, but we specialize in rapid diagnostic. And for years, we have get support from the Gates Foundations, from different departments in the US government, as well as the Hong Kong governments to further develop our core technology and our applications of rapid diagnostic in infectious disease. So even though we are not as established as some of the major diagnostic brands globally, but we are very proud that we are able to develop our rapid diagnostic for COVID-19 in relatively short time.
We'll talk about your overseas credentials in just a moment, but now let's focus on Hong Kong's COVID fight. I know that you've been ramping up the production of the rapid antigen testing kit from less than 2 million in late 2021 to 30 million in this March. Now, together with other initiatives to bolster Hong Kong's testing capacities, unfortunately, we still see residents queuing for hours every day for testing, in Koh Ring especially these few days. Now, there are silent transmissions all over the community. So my question is, did the help come too late, and what else can be done?
Well, I definitely agree the fact that rapid antigen test is not being adopted in Hong Kong in the community early enough, even though our test has been available in Hong Kong more than a year. But I think the government have taken action a little bit too late during the fifth wave to be massively adopting the rapid antigen test. Should the rapid antigen test been adopted in the early onset of the fifth wave, we may still have a chance to further postpone or to delay this tsunami, rise of the confirmed cases.
Should the government, in your opinion, you're the expert of diagnostic technology, when there's no cases at all, maybe back in the summer in 2021, should the government starting then to test, to introduce this rapid testing scheme to the households so that we can avoid an avalanche of cases every day right now that is crumbling our public hospital systems?
Well, from a retrospective point of view, the answer is yes. But of course, I'm sure the Hong Kong government have other priorities during that time. But if you look at the local, if our neighbors, for example, Singapore or South Korea, they do adopt rapid antigen tests at an earlier time, and allowing that the citizen to get educated and allow the rapid antigen test become mainstream strategies in fighting the pandemic should the new wave arrive. So yes, I do think if the Hong Kong government could adopt the rapid antigen test and educate our citizens at an earlier stage, we would be less worrisome during right now. But again, we can only look at this retrospectively. And now it's not too late because honestly speaking, we are enduring the fifth wave right now. And as we know, COVID is here to stay. We're going to face the new wave and even seasonal wave every year in the future to come. So now our citizens are getting equipped with the knowledge on performing rapid antigen tests, I think is a good skill set for us to have for in the future.
Now, in the earlier stages of the pandemic, your company spearheaded the quote dual track unquote method to first screen high-risk groups of people with a rapid testing kit, and then followed by the PCR test, which most of the time produce more accurate but delayed results. But the government recently decided not to announce the number of daily preliminary positive cases due to a backlog of test samples waiting to be proceeded in private clinics and other government laboratories. I wonder, how are you adapting the diagnostic strategy to help unclog the testing jam? Is there anything that can be done?
I think right now, the rapid antigen test together with PCR is really discovering a lot of confirmed cases for the government to handle. And I think the current backlog is because the centralized public health laboratory have just simply too many samples in order to process, and that causes delay. And I think the easiest way for them to overcome the problem is to introduce additional testing capacity through collaborations, or to accept the rapid antigen test results as well as the PCR positive result that are contributing by private laboratory as a confirmatory result without verifying. This way, it is possible for the authorities to catch up with this huge amount of incoming positive samples that they have to gone through confirmation.
What would you advise residents to do if they discovered discrepancies between the result of the PCR test, which is government launched, conducted, and the rapid testing kits that maybe they conducted on themselves?
Well, I think the nature of the rapid antigen test is self-performed, and that's why the authority cannot trust 100% on the performance and the result that are coming out of the rapid antigen test. And this is understandable. And that's why I still do believe that a confirmation test using PCR would be a suitable method. It's just simply that currently the positive cases are simply too large for the authorities to check everything. Yeah.
Well, let's say, for example, let's say a person tested positive with the rapid testing kit, but the government PCR test returned a negative result. What should he or she react?
Well, this is called a false positive result, and it does happen. However, I think now the government should get enough of the big data coming out by the confirmation of PCR with the rapid antigen test, and should discover that the so-called false positive rate is a very small percentage. And in amid of the current pandemic situation, eliminating that very small percentage of false positive should not be the priorities. The priority should be really isolating, identifying, and treating those that were seemingly to get positive, whether that is confirmed by PCR or rapid antigen test.
Okay, now the Hong Kong government is planning to test all 7.8 million residents. Chief Executive Carrie Lam has called it a complicated, large-scale operation. If you were to advise the government, you provide your expertise, what would you say is the best way to carry out the scheme to minimize some of the hiccups we've witnessed along the way, and transmission risk, of course, and how is your company planning to contribute it to the initiative?
Well, first, I absolutely agree the approach of performing a universal PCR testing for all Hong Kong citizens, simply because the pandemic right now is out of control. Without these strong and harsher means, we can expect a good portions of the citizens to get infected, and very good numbers of people would die. But the challenge of operating a citywide universal PCR test is, I think the challenge is not only at the lab testing capacity, because in China mainland have very strong laboratory capacity to help Hong Kong. the challenge really lies on how can we do the sampling, meaning the swabbing, fast and swift enough without the citizen queuing on the street for long hours, because A, that would cause, increased risk of getting COVID by others, and B, exposing ourselves in a cold area for a long time is simply not pleasant.
Interesting, because Anthony Wu, who chairs the Sunrise Diagnostics Center, he told us on this program last week that what is urgently needed right now is manpower, lab technicians to process the tests, and he implored the mainland authorities to send more people to help us. Do you think he has a point?
Absolutely. If the plan is to simply utilizing local laboratories to perform the universal testing, then I absolutely agree with Mr. Wu's comments that we need more technicians coming into Hong Kong. However, we must also consider the infrastructures and the space in Hong Kong. Is that enough to perform all 7 million tests, or maybe even multiple times of 7 million citizen testing in a short period of time? Is Hong Kong lab facility infrastructure good enough? If not, then we may have to consider selecting the mainland labs to participate on that. But I would also agree that this may rise into legal problems, compliance issues, that is up to the government decision.
All right, well, let's pick it up after the break. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.